Congressional address Tuesday, including what the White House says will include some surprises. One person who won't be there for the surprises, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Here's what he's saying today.
I think that State of the Union speech is going to be a farce. I think it's going to be a MAGA pep rally, not a serious talk to the nation. I think Donald Trump is going to spew a series of lies about his alignment with Russia, about what he's trying to do to allow Elon Musk to essentially monetize the American government to enrich Musk and his billionaire crowd. And I'm just not going to be a part of that.
Joining me now is Mark Leibovich, staff writer at The Atlantic and MSNBC political contributor and the author of Thank You for Your Servitude, Donald Trump's Washington and the Price of Submission. Hey, my friend, good to see you, Mark. So as we look ahead to Donald Trump's address before Congress on Tuesday, we are sure to see typical Trump touting what he views as his accomplishments. But there's a new CNN poll that shows his job approval remains negative heading into the address at 47%. Could it be a case of some promises like lower prices of gas and eggs being made but not kept?
Well, I mean, I think, he'll probably say a lot of that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Senator Murphy is not alone. I mean, I assume there'll be a number of Democratic no-shows there, and I assume this will be mandatory attendance for every Republican who's elected, on Capitol Hill. So, I mean, I do think it's going to be very much a home game for Trump, given the makeup of what the gallery is going to look like. So I think it will resound probably more to a pep rally kind of thing. I imagine, there won't be a lot of moments that are kind of back and forth, certainly like there were in past States of the Union or speeches of this nature. Look, Donald Trump loves a spectacle. This is a spectacle. He seems very much in control of this and certainly in the crowd. Wouldn't be surprised if there are some kind of surprise guests or surprise antics that we all talk about for the next few days.
But listen, also on Tuesday brings Trump's promised tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and an increase on China. He's also indicating he might put forth reciprocal tariffs on European countries. I mean, how do you expect, Mark, this to play out? And what kind of damage could it do to our relationship with our allies?
Well, I mean, certainly, first of all, I mean, if Donald Trump is going to do this, he will certainly spin it and cheerleader it in the most probably, loudest and most unsubtle possible way you can imagine on Tuesday night at the Capitol. I mean, obviously, the relationship with the allies right now are in a pretty precarious place between not only the trade stuff, but certainly the foreign policy stuff around Ukraine and Russia and so forth. There are a lot of, sabers being rattled around the world right now, and it seems like much of it includes people we had been in alliance with for many, many years. So, look, I think this is part of that. I think it's part of the same spectacle, and it seems very much part of the same blueprint for what we're seeing so far in this presidency.
So that explosive Oval Office meeting ended with Zelensky being asked to leave the White House. Reportedly, neither leader has spoken to each other since. What do you make of what happened, Mark? And do you think their relationship can be salvaged? Did Zelensky not sufficiently demonstrate the last word in the title of your book, mandatory submission to Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly, that was one of the many sins that people saw. I mean, I think, you can debate whether that was an ambush or whether it all happened spontaneously and so forth. But certainly Trump and J.D. Vance as his proxy sitting right next to him have become accustomed, certainly in this term, to a great deal of deference from pretty much anyone. I mean, that doesn't seem like he's breaking bread with a lot of Democrats, but certainly everyone he's coming in contact with, certainly on his White House team, in his administration, certainly in Congress and the Senate, have been largely Republican and largely very loyal to him, and I think have acted in a way that has been quite ostentatious and obviously in keeping with what he demands. I don't know if that's how it played out. I mean, obviously, that was a scene that I think we'll be talking about for a long time. It certainly seems to have dominated much of the weekend as far as, it only happened about 48 hours ago. So, we'll see. I don't certainly think the relationship has been helped. I think, Europe certainly seems to have rallied around Zelensky and Ukraine, and I think that's got to be somewhat a pretty good consolation for him at the very least. But obviously, this relationship is fractured, and we're going to see, how fractured and whether it can be repaired at this point.
Yeah. Well, today, Zelensky being greeted with open arms by European allies at that summit in London on the war in Ukraine. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that he, along with French President Emmanuel Macron and Zelensky, they've all agreed to work on a plan to stop the fighting and will take that to the U.S. Does Trump risk isolating the United States, or do you think that is actually part of his America First goal?
I mean, in some ways, it's the definition of his America First goal. I mean, yeah, you can call it isolationism, you can call it isolating, you can call it marginalizing, what have you. But Donald Trump, and certainly by extension, much of the party and his supporters are very much, in alignment with this. I mean, whether, there are special carve-outs for what you do in Panama,